The Roman Empire conquered mountains, deserts, and continents, but the sea was never supposed to obey them. And yet, Rome built warships so brutally engineered, so strategically reckless, that even modern navies refuse to copy them. Not because they can't, but because they won't. Rome was born facing inland. Its first enemies came on foot, not by sail. Roman identity was shaped by farms, roads, and legions marching in rhythm. The sea was an afterthought, dangerous, unpredictable, and foreign. While other civilizations learned to read waves like language, Rome looked at the ocean and saw a wall they hoped they'd never need to cross. For centuries, mastery of the Mediterranean belonged to specialists: Phoenician traders, Greek admirals, Carthaginian sailors. These were people who lived on decks from childhood, who could feel wind shifts through wood and rope. Rome had none of that. What Rome had were soldiers trained to hold formation, even while dying. The First Punic War changed Rome forever. Carthage didn't need to invade Italy. The sea itself was their weapon. Roman supply lines vanished. Coastal towns were raided at will. For the first time, Rome realized something terrifying. You can conquer the world if you can control the water between its shores. Rome didn't try to become better sailors. They didn't train generations of mariners. They didn't embrace naval tradition. Instead, they asked a different question. What if ships didn't need sailors at all? What if the sea could be forced to obey infantry logic? That question would reshape naval warfare forever. A single Carthaginian warship ran aground during a storm. To its crew, it was a disaster. To Rome, it was a gift. Roman engineers dismantled it piece by piece, not copying, interrogating. They studied how stress moved through planks, where ships bent, and where they broke. Rome wasn't learning how to sail. They were learning how to survive impact. Roman engineering followed one rule: if it might fail, make it heavier. Thicker hulls absorbed shock. Rigid frames resisted twisting waves. These ships didn't glide across water. They forced their way through it. Naval tradition said this was suicide. Rome called it insurance. Every experienced sailor knew the truth. Weight kills ships. Heavier vessels roll harder, react slower, and capsize easier in rough seas. By all logic, Roman warships should have been floating coffins. And sometimes, they were. But when they survived completely. Roman ships didn't crack. They didn't shear apart. They endured. Then Rome added something no navy had ever dared: the Corvus, a massive boarding bridge mounted on a pivot, tipped with an iron spike. When two ships collided, the Corvus dropped, and the sea, for a moment, stopped mattering. To experienced sailors, this was horror. Years of training erased in seconds, maneuverability rendered meaningless. Suddenly, naval combat meant facing Roman legionaries with shields locked and blades drawn. The ocean, once freedom, became a trap. Many enemy crews panicked before contact was even made, but the Corvus was dangerous. In rough water, it raised the ship's center of gravity. Storms turned victories into mass graves. Entire fleets vanished without battle. Rome knew this. They accepted it. Because Roman strategy didn't measure loss in lives. It measured loss in control. Modern naval engineers study Roman ships with fascination and discomfort. Their designs violate modern stability laws. They break safety margins. No admiral today would approve them. Not because they were ineffective, but because they treated crews as expendable components. Roman ships used layered timber locked with mortise and tenon joints. Iron clamps bit into wood like teeth. No flexibility, no elegance, just resistance. Some wrecks still lie underwater intact after 2 millennia. That kind of durability wasn't accidental. It was obsession. Most Roman crews couldn't swim. They weren't trained to read waves or weather. They were trained to obey orders. Storms killed more Romans than enemy blades ever did. But discipline kept them rowing. Fear kept them silent. Eventually, Rome reduced its reliance on the Corvus, not out of mercy, but experience. They learned the sea couldn't be bullied forever. But by then, it didn't matter. Rome already controlled the Mediterranean. Grain from Egypt fed Rome reliably. Legions redeployed in weeks instead of months. Rebellions starved before spreading. Trade flowed under Roman protection. The sea stopped dividing civilizations. It unified them under Roman authority. Later empires remembered Rome's ships, but not with admiration. They remembered the cost. Rome proved dominance could be engineered, but at a human price few were willing to pay again. Roman naval engineering wasn't clever. It was ruthless. It bent nature instead of cooperating with it. It treated the sea like an enemy to be crushed. And for a time, it worked. But the ocean remembers everything. Empires rise when they defy limits. They fall when they forget why those limits existed.